welcome to season 5 of 7 Million Bikes, and the new name is a Vietnam podcast. We are no longer a Saigon podcast. It's been really exciting. I can't believe we're in season 5 already. Season 4 was short-lived. Life got too busy and I could only do 5 episodes for season 4. But season 5, we're going to be aiming to do 12 episodes, bring you one every week. And to reflect the fact that many of the guests actually aren't from Saigon or don't live in Saigon, we've had guests from overseas and guests from Hanoi. And the fact that a lot of the listeners are actually not in Saigon, they're based all over Vietnam. So to reflect that, the growth of the podcast, it's now going to be called a Vietnam podcast. So I hope that changes okay for all the regular listeners. Thank you very much to everyone who's been listening since the beginning, or if you've just joined. It's been really exciting to see the development of 7 Million Bikes. We've now moved into doing more events as well as the podcast. And there's going to be a lot more exciting things coming this year. So thank you to everyone who's been along that journey with us. I'm really excited for my guest for episode 1 of season 5. They've just moved down from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City. They are from Washington, D.C. They're a teacher, and they are also a comedian who just placed second in the Vietnam comedy competition. So they've been doing loads of shows all around town. It's been really exciting to have new comedy blood in town. They're absolutely hilarious. And the exciting thing is, please go on the Facebook page for 7 Million Bikes. Look at the events tab. You will see we're doing so many events now all around the city, and we're going to be expanding across Vietnam as well. I'm about to announce a new tour around central Vietnam with me and Devin Gray. And coming up just very, very soon, this guest is going to be performing at the headliner show, where they get to do a 40 to 60 minute set. This will be the 4th show. Every one of them is sold out so far. 5th show, sorry. This will be the 5th show. And I've made that a really long, drawn out introduction to say the guest today is Kelso Dowling.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations on season 5.
Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, that was surprising to me.
And me.
Yeah.
There was never a plan in place, and then it's just been going.
Yeah, I'm just another person on a season 5. That's the thing we should be celebrating.
So how's it going? How has the move been from, I nearly said from Ho Chi Minh, from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City?
Yeah, it's cool. So I moved from, it's been interesting moving from one city to another in the same country, and experiencing the differences between Hanoi and Saigon, meeting a lot of people. There's this rivalry that I didn't know existed between Hanoi and Saigon, which has been cool to experience. So a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of like, Saigon's better, Saigon's better, Saigon's better. But I think they're both really cool.
I really like, so I've heard you talk about this in your stand-up, and I really like what you say. You're like, you don't have to choose one, they're just different. Because I do fall into that kind of like, which one's better? Saigon's better, right?
See, you're trying to get me to say it now. I'm not doing it.
No, I wasn't not.
Subconsciously.
But it made me think about it. I was like, yeah, why I fall into probably that wherever I've lived, like I've lived in Wellington. It's like, yeah, Wellington's better than Auckland. It's way better.
Oh, I lived in Wellington.
Did you really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I would say I enjoyed Wellington a lot.
It's my home. Like, if I was to leave Vietnam, I would go back to Wellington, yeah.
Really?
How long did you live there for?
I studied 6 months. So I did that in university. I went to Victoria.
So how did you end up in Wellington?
I have 2 older brothers, and we're very close. And so like traveling, studying abroad was always a thing in our family. My oldest one studied in Wollongong in Australia.
Right.
And then my middle brother studied in Wellington. So the both of them were like, you need to go to Australia, you need to go to New Zealand. And they both were like fighting.
Which one was better?
Yeah, they were like, you need to do this, blah, blah. But I ended up choosing Wellington out of that. So really just the experience of like what they had. I met a bunch of Kiwis who came to visit us, and I was like, I'm going to go there. But yeah, I'm glad I did. New Zealand's amazing.
Yeah, so I lived there for 4.5 years, and it's still home to me. Like, my wife and I will move back there one day. It's just the most amazing country in the world, I think. Yeah. And the people are amazing as well.
Yeah, it's like it's stunning. It's a stunning place.
Yeah.
But I still have a bunch
Wellington
of friends
especially.
there. Yeah, I love Wellington. It was cute. We called it the Trippy Tree in the Botanical Gardens.
Yeah.
You can climb up.
Yeah, I know that one.
That's definitely, if someone were like, what's one of your favorite views in your life? Like, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you prefer, Wellington or Auckland?
I didn't spend a lot of time in Auckland.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I really couldn't answer that. I was only in Auckland for I completely skipped that portion of New Zealand. I was there for maybe 4 days. And then when I traveled, I traveled all around the country, like North and South Island and all, but I never spent more than 4 days in Auckland. Everywhere else was a lot longer. So yeah, I couldn't even answer.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So what did you study in Wellington?
So in university, my undergrad, I studied theater and I double majored in international studies.
I'm just.
This is everyone's response.
I'm like, how do those work together? You go to the G20 summit and do a theater performance.
Yeah, this is everyone's reaction.
Climate change.
I feel like I was interviewed for this article in university that had asked me about it, and at one point I quoted that I wanted to teach English. Actually, this wasn't when I was picking my major, so I was 17, 18. I said I wanted to teach English through theater, or maybe a traveling theater company or something like that. So I'm kind of on the right track. But then my master's is in global management, which is hilarious. I have a joke sort of about my educational background.
Hold on. What the hell is global management?
That's the joke. Yeah, I have no fucking clue.
You manage the globe? What? No, what are you studying?
That's my line. I'm managing the globe. It's essentially, it's international business on a management track. So yeah, more management styles.
Of business, more than geopolitics.
It's an MBA, yeah. So I
right, okay.
Which is stupid because I don't even like it. I just was that's the thing you're supposed to do, I guess, at the time. Yeah, I should go in the business route because business is a thing that you can do and you can say.
But it must open up a lot of doors, surely, having an MBA.
Not particularly, not for a direction I'd really like to go. Eventually I'll probably have to go back to school for another one.
What would you study this time? Global theatre.
Global, yeah. My joke is I'd get my PhD in world domination. So, yeah, that's the next route.
So how long were you in Hanoi for?
I was in Hanoi for about a year and a half, so not long.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer than that.
No, short time.
Right. And did you come from New Zealand? No, you came from the States?
Yeah, so I actually was living in DC and I got my TEFL before I left in person. So I knew I was going to teach in Asia somewhere, but I didn't know where, and I wanted to travel. So I actually left to go backpacking. And then in my head, I was I'm probably only going to go backpacking for 2 months. And then I'll find a job. I'll pick a country to teach in, what have you. And then I ended up backpacking for six months. So I traveled for 6 months and then I chose Hanoi to teach.
For any particular reason?
No, not at all. You know what's funny is that whole time I was I'm going to travel. I'm going to see which country I like the most or feel like I fit into. And Hanoi, at the end of it, I had never even been to Hanoi. I just was all right, I'm going to teach in Hanoi. So that plan didn't even work out. But I did have a family friend who had been living there, is still living there now. So that was part of it, meeting people. A lot of people had talked about Hanoi, Vietnam in general. And so, yeah, I just kind of went in that direction.
So talking about, we won't say which city is better, but so what are the main differences you've noticed so far between living in Hanoi and you've been in Saigon for just a few months, right?
2 months.
2 months, yeah.
Today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I made it.
It will go by quickly.
Yeah, it definitely has been. Hanoi, I love Hanoi. It's a charming city. It's true. I miss the lake because I lived close to the lake and I like being near water, like a lot of people. It's like a bit, I think personally for me, I think people experience things in different ways, but for me it was like slower. It's really chill. Like really relaxed. I think a lot of that's maybe some of the draw to it, why people really like it. And in Saigon, the city makes me tired.
I'm laughing hard because it's so true.
Yeah,
I think if you go and read the bio for 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast now, but it talks about Saigon just being a bustling city and it's challenging and confronting and I don't, because I've not lived in Hanoi, I've just visited, but things never close here. You drive down streets at 10 o'clock at night and people are still out having coffee, the closed stores are still open, and there's construction going on till 1 a.m. And it is, and I think I've probably talked about this on previous episodes if anyone's listened. Sorry if I repeat myself, I'm Scottish, that's what we do. Well, that's what I do anyway, I tell the same story to death. Our first year in Saigon was terrible. Like, I hated it. I was counting down the days to move back to New Zealand. I could not wait. I couldn't get out here quick enough because it was just so challenging. And then it took a while to get into it, so how are you feeling after 2 months, because it could take you another 10 to feel at home, or are you feeling at home already?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I came down here. I'm like quite a busy person in general, and by that I mean not like I have like I'm so busy. I'm just I'm stimulated, and I like having things to do. And part of that move was just I like a city in general, like a bustling city where things are going on all the time. So yeah, I came in real hot. Like, I just used connections of people that I knew. I was like, whose hands do I shake? Who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like saying hello to everyone. I have heard a lot of people like, wow, like you came like, yeah, it's like you fit right in. And I was like, but I did that on purpose. And that's how, and I think, my dad was in the military. I grew up moving my entire life. Like, every 3 years we moved to a new place. So I think it's just part of my mindset. Like, no one else is going to do it for you. So
yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, you fit right in. I mean, everyone knows Kelso now. Yeah. And
I'm friendly.
You are very friendly, and I think everyone's happy that you're here, so it's cool. And we've got more people coming down from Hanoi as well, which is exciting as well. Half of Hanoi comedy scene seems to be coming to Saigon, right?
Yeah, I think.
Did you guys all get together and be like, right, we're all going to Saigon?
I don't know how it. I think honestly, also with the times of what's going on, and I tend to find people who do travel or live overseas have this itch of freshness and new and excitement, and we can't really leave Vietnam right now. So I mean, you can if you want, but good luck, I guess. So to stay here, make a change, see something, do something new that feels different, exciting, was a great idea. And also I can stay in the country. So
now, you're from Washington DC, which is obviously a government city, so was that comparable to Hanoi? And you said you're a city person and you like the bustle, but I never. Is Washington DC like that?
DC is a hustle and bustle too, a different kind. No, it's very. It also shuts down quite early, like Hanoi. There was some parts of Hanoi that I drove through, and I was getting sort of deja vu of, and then I was like, maybe this is why I like it, or maybe why I like this part of the city. So I think that went on. But DC's cool. There's a lot of people think that it doesn't have. I don't know. At least I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, it's like too political for me, or that's not my scene. There's this and that, but there's so many other cool parts of the city that I really enjoyed. Like, especially in the States, like that's a city you go to make change. So you meet all these people who have these jobs, and you're like, I didn't even know that was a like title. What the hell? I was like, okay.
Well, so my wife lived in DC for 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, after college. Ooh. And she still, to this day, loves it. She talks about how amazing it was. She had like the best time of her life because she was after college, and I don't know if you experienced this, but because DC, she's like, no one's really from DC. So it was everyone's from all over the country moved there for jobs in politics or lobbying or whatever, and all these crazy jobs and things like that. NGOs. And so NGOs, right? Yeah. And so she loved it, and she just had the most fun there. So I've been to DC, but only as a tourist, just once, I think. Yeah. So I just did the mall and the White House and all that. So I don't really have any real perspective on it as a city, you know. Yeah, so I'm not from there, which I actually was. So you told me, I said, where are you from? And you said Washington DC. Yeah, no, I put it on there. This is what I say, which is why I'm really excited. I was the comedy show that you do called Where Are You From was like sparked this new writing session that I had because I was like, oh, like maybe this will be something fun for me to mess around with, because that question growing up has like haunted me. Now it's exciting to answer, but I never really knew because I moved around so much. Yep. So my parents are both from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and a lot of my family, grandparents, cousins. And there's this sort of tie to Pittsburgh that I grew up having, but then I never really lived there. But we're so strong like, in Pittsburgh style. But I was like born in Hawaii. I have no tie to Hawaii. I'm not from the island. I was just born on the island. When did you leave there? When I was 3. Yeah, so you don't remember it at all then, I guess. No, and I went back to visit, but that's what's in your head because people are like, where are you born? And I'm like, here, but I have no, thing to it. And from there, every 3 years, I was living somewhere else. I lived in Europe for a while too, which actually... A fun fact about Francesca. Did we tell you this? No, that was the next point I was going to bring up, but go on. Well, I don't know what you're about to say, but I was going to bring up Francesca. Who is opening for the headliner show on the 16th. I'm really excited. And why this is so cool is because Francesca and I met at an open mic here and did the whole, we should be friends on Facebook, and added each other. And there was a mutual friend we had, and I was in such shock. I didn't even say this person's name. I was like, how do you know that guy? And that guy was my brother, who then we've tied it back to, we both used to live, or both of our parents are in the military. We both used to live in Italy together. So I've known Francesca. I remember her when I was like 12. What? Years old. Yeah. Wow. I went to school with her and her brother. And that's crazy. Yeah, so now 20 years later. Did you like her back then? Yeah. I mean, we definitely didn't have. I'm putting you on the spot now. Yeah. I feel like. It's okay, you're 12 years old, you can not like her and like her now, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have a friendship, but I do remember her. I think her brother is more of I think he was closer to my age, and she's closer to my brother's age. But yeah, 20 years later, doing stand-up in Saigon, and when we were talking about someone opening for the show, I was like, Francesca, this is nuts. Like, we have to do this show together. These two people that, like, knew each other when they were 11, randomly together 20 years later. That's really great, because I was going to follow up and be like, oh, yeah, like, Francesca has a similar story, I guess, because I remember when one of the first shows she did for me, and I was like, where are you from? What, I put you down, you're American, right? And she was like, well, I'm like born in England, but I think her parents are English, maybe, or are they American? I can't remember what she told me, but she's like, yeah, you can just put me down as American because I've got an American accent, and it'll just confuse people if you put me down as British. And then, because she was saying, yeah, my dad was in the military and we travelled around, but I didn't know that you'd known each other in a past life. That's crazy. Yeah, so in our stories, they've merged or connected at some point, and now, yeah, it's crazy. So that's what I think that part of growing up in that way is sort of why I think I can move to a new city and just
go in. It's like I've done it my whole life.
I feel like that must be the most natural thing for someone like yourself who's... What's that like growing up, moving every 3 years? Because, you know, for children, they talk about... I don't know. I don't have kids and I've never studied it. But they whoever they are, say that, you know, the stability and consistency and all of this. So how was that for you growing up, moving every 3 years?
Yeah, it's... I don't know, because I also don't study that. That's funny. Or want any. It's the only thing I knew. And I think that or I'll hear a lot of people like, was that hard? Or, oh, that must have been difficult. But generally, like, it was just very normal. And until I was 13, I was always in schools on military bases. So I was with a bunch of other military brats. And then when I moved back to the States, I was 13. I moved to Maryland. And I remember talking to... my first time in a public school that was not on a military base. And they're like, oh, yeah, Billy, I've known him since I was 5. And I was like, what? So I didn't understand. And I went home, and I remember going to my mom and being like, Mom, do people just like stay in one place like for their whole life? And she lost her, like she was laughing really hard and was like, yeah. So I just genuinely didn't know.
I guess when I said in terms of consistency, but you would have your parents, so that would be for a child, I guess that would be the main factor, the consistency, you know what I mean, in terms of your development and things like that. Moving every 3 years is maybe not so traumatic.
Yeah, well, I guess it was consistent, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking as I'm talking. So then how did you get into stand-up? Oh, yeah. Did you forget you're a comedian for a second? Being too nostalgic about the past. We can talk more about being a military brat if you want. It's funny you say about the show, Where Are You From? I find that really interesting because the name of the show is because you're meant to ask the audience, where are you from?
That's hilarious.
It's not more about yourself, but I mean, it's open to interpretation. Because the reason for that name was, remember when international tourists used to come to Vietnam?
Oh, yeah.
And that show's located in the heart of District 1, right near all the tourist areas like Binh Tan Market. And so the thinking for that was that we were going to have loads of international people, and it's going to be where you're from and audience interaction, which is what it was in the beginning, with people from all over the world. Now we still do, because obviously there's a big international group of expats here, but we don't obviously have the traveling guests that we used to do. Used to be people only in Saigon for one night, and they would come to a show. So it'd be like, where are you from? And blah, blah, blah. But I like your interpretation of it as well, yeah.
I did think about it in that way too.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I'm definitely going to say, where you're from. But then in my head, I was like, if there's a lineup of all these comedians being like, where are my South Africans at? I was like, I don't want to be this person that is going to ask when everyone's already answered. But that definitely makes sense when like travelers are in and you can ask those questions. But it was cool. It ended up being a writing thing that I've never gone down. So.
Oh, cool. Well, you're doing the Where You're From this month, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to come out to that, that's on January 27th. And we'll hear about your jokes about where you're from.
Yeah.
So then let's go back to, how did you get into stand-up comedy then?
Yeah, I studied theater in university, and I still had never delved into stand-up. I did sketch comedy and improv, and I love the stage in general. And I'd always wanted to try stand-up, but I was so scared. I was just like, I was that person that said I always want to do it.
So you had done theatre, improv, and sketch comedy, and you were scared to do stand-up?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, because I was terrified to do stand-up. It took me 7 years to get on stage, but I had none of that background. I was really shy and like not a performer at all, like in any shape or form. So for me, that was like a massive, massive leap. So that blows me away that it was such a big leap. So for you, why was that such a big leap to go from being on stage performing to then suddenly stand up?
In theater, I'm like developing this character that's been created already. I mean, not in a sense, of course, like I'm creating and going through this character to try to tell their story, but these lines are given to me that I get to delve into and try to portray. And in improv, it's a team effort. So I also grew up playing like competitive sports. Improv also felt like, in a stage sense, very much team oriented. So if you fail, then everyone fails together. If you succeed, then everyone succeeds together. And I felt that camaraderie in improv. So it was like just a team-oriented sort of thing. And then in stand-up, it's one, your own material. I wasn't really confident in my writing or really storytelling abilities. And then also just imagining being on stage alone, delivering things that are like from your brain that you think are really funny, and then they don't work, was like, makes me want to throw up.
When you describe it like that, then that makes perfect sense. Yeah, now I get it. Okay, yeah, because it's, and I talk about this a lot with my wife and probably with other people, stand-up comedy is just such a almost unique thing. It's so visceral, and it's so like, I never even thought about the loneliness of it. Like, you're alone on a stage with 30, 40, 50, 100 people looking at you. And I've had it like jokes that I know get big laughs, but if I don't tell it right, it's like silence. And I'm like, what have I done wrong here? And it's so lonely when there's nothing. You're like, oh. So yeah, interesting take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, so in the way that I got into it was, so I was that person that was saying for like 6 years after I finished school, it was just something like, yeah, I always want to try stand-up. Like, I was one of those, and I never did it. So I was like always talking about it, not being about it. And then I think I got to, I honestly want to say it was probably a New Year's resolution. No, it was. Yeah. I just pulled up resolution list from 2017, and number 8 on the list was do stand-up comedy.
Wow. A resolution that was completed. Amazing.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So what I did was I found a stand-up 101 class in DC, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, let me do this class. I'll get to like some of the basics. I can do it with a bunch of other people, kind of bring in that little team support aspect. And, if it goes well, it goes well. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't. And at least like I can say I tried and I got sort of the basic principles of what this art is. And it ended up going really well. And then after that first time, I was like, okay, like I can do this, I think. So yeah, that's...
Do you think your previous experience, because as soon as you knew you could do it, it kind of was like, okay, I can do this?
Yeah, I need that in like a lot of aspects of my life, really. not just stand up, just like probably career-wise and yeah, relationships.
Because I wasn't too dissimilar, so I'd done lots of public speaking for my previous jobs, but it was all about charities and NGOs that I'd worked for. So I was very comfortable going up and talking about that to large groups of people. And I'd done face-to-face fundraising on the streets of Australia for like 4 years. So just approaching random people and I always made people laugh, but I never thought about stand-up at that point anyway. But yeah, it took me 7 years, and then eventually when I did it, it was like, oh yeah, I mean, I can. It was literally that first time, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do it. But it took 7 years to make that step onto the stage, and the only reason I did it, and I don't think I've probably told this before, so again, apologies if you've heard this story before. Thank you for being a loyal listener and listening to the same stories over and over again. We'd been going to open mic night at Indica and to watch. And I telling my wife, I want to do it. For years I'd been telling her I want to do it. And I'd gone a couple of times, I'd written out some stuff, and I had the piece of paper in my pocket, and every time I just couldn't do it. I couldn't go and ask to put my name down. I didn't want to do it. And it was just one of these things, like it was a night, there was no one there. There was like 5 people. There was Angie the Diva hosting, and I think one other person performing. I can't even remember who. And so that person performed, and then Angie got up and she's like, well, that's all we got for you tonight. She's like, do any of you guys want to like give it a try? It's open mic night. And I was like, yeah, me. It was like, that was my, like, and I had my stuff. And I got up and did it and got laughs right away, and then that was it. Like, yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah,
I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a drug, right? Well,
I didn't think so at first, but now I'm beginning to feel it more. That it feels like it, because I know that's a kind of cliche that people say it's like a drug being on stage, but and I never really felt that, but now, like I do, I kind of feel the ups and downs of it a bit. Yeah, so I'm trying to manage myself a bit better right now, because I used to do face-to-face fundraising, as I said. And I worked on 100% commission. So if I made no sales, I made no money. And so that was really difficult in the beginning, because some days you do well and some days you do better. But the longer I did it, you just manage to manage yourself, where if you have a bad day, it's fine. If you have a good day, you have a good day. And I'm now trying to bring that to stand up, but also because I'm organising shows. So like, you know, we had to cancel a show last month because we just didn't have many bookings and there was bad weather. I was really, really down about that. And I've had that before at other events, got rained out. This was not a comedy event, and you feel really down about it. Like I really feel it, like emotionally, and I can feel really, really down. But I have to try and manage myself to be like, okay, it's just a bad day and the next one's going to be awesome, and not try and feel those ups and downs so much. And as well for stand-up performing as well, just keep on an even keel emotionally, you know?
Yeah. No, it's definitely just a part of it. Some days are good, some days are bad. Usually tell individuals who are trying for the first time or kind of getting new to it. And I'm still like super new and I'm learning so much, and I know I have a lot of work to do, but at least I think I have now reached a point where if a joke doesn't go over well, or just like a bad show, or I wasn't feeling it, I'm just like, yeah, that's part of it. Probably part of stage background too. Just like, show must go on. I have to continue.
Exactly.
People say that, like, I know it's a cliche thing, but I'm like, it's cliche for a reason.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Don't hate on the cliches. Like, they exist.
That's true, right? That's true. So let's talk then about your material, because you're a comedian, I would say, that's very open and honest, and which is really refreshing to listen to. I get scared for you almost, like some of the topics that you bring up. So one of the things, if people noticed in the beginning, I introduced you as they, which is your pronoun. And so you talk a lot about your gender identity as well. And you also talk about your alcoholism and recovering alcoholic, if that's the best way to put it. And you're enrolled in AA at the moment. So how do you feel? Because I think for a lot of comedians, that's a big leap. How do you feel using that material on stage?
Yeah, it's heavy. But I do,
because you seem really comfortable with it, like, but your persona is like that, so you just seem really light-hearted about it. I'm sure internally it's not light-hearted.
I am so happy you said that. I don't journal. I do stand up. So I've tried to just like write things down and process things in a way where it's like I'll journal and then can like put it away and that's the end of it. But I'm like, no, I need to talk about it. And I found this art that lets me do this. And I think that lets me do this in this environment. And also feeling like I have to tell people, like I talk about my insecurities out loud, and that's a part of just my own insecurity. It's like, I'm just gonna fucking put this all out there because it's just gonna stay in here and like be inside and have for only me to deal with. But if I tell people like what's going on and then they're aware, it somehow makes me feel better. So I'm like, this is just what's going on. I'm just gonna lay it all out here. So like,
well, there's another cliche that, you know, all comedians are messed up and they do comedy as some sort of therapy, and I don't prescribe to that belief. But what are your thoughts on that cliche?
Yeah, the cliches exist.
Yeah. Because I personally don't, but because I'm just not comfortable enough to share my insecurities, so I just kind of make jokes, I guess. But it's really brave what you do, but then the skill that you do well is you make it funny. So before you answer, sorry, I'm leading you in here, which I try not to lead into answers, but I think that cliche of comedy as a therapy can go down two ways. You can have a comedian who just comes up and just tells you the problems and it's not funny, you know? But then you can have another comedian who tells you their insecurities or the problems, but they make it funny. and that's the whole point, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say people who do comedy, have a lot going on, and this is why we do it. But I mean, could you say that for any art, really? People are like, those painters or like those poets, oof, like self-deprecating or what have you. So I think, I mean, yeah, at least, I can only speak for myself, but it's definitely, it is a form of something therapeutic for me that I, really enjoy. It's funny that you say it seems comfortable. I hope it's presented in that way. Recently, I've been talking a lot about my gender journey because I'm still on it, and I'm still making a lot of new discoveries. I'm still learning a lot about myself and what feels good for me. And in the beginning, because I'm going through it now, is that's just kind of what I'm delivering. Like anything I'm talking about is really just like what I'm thinking right now. And when I first started being like, all right, I'm going to write about this, I'm just going to chat about it out loud, and I think it'll probably help me process. But it was so scary the first time. I actually almost had like a panic attack at one venue, which was like a sports bar. And I was talking about, being like non-binary and genderqueer and trans, and this person in the front just looked absolutely disgusted. And I wasn't ready for it. Yeah, because I like don't hang around people who suck. And and also who that might have not even been about that, like it's just, that's like how I took it. And so I immediately just retracted, and it went, I like went to the bathroom. I was like almost gonna throw up. This poor girl was like, oh, you did so well. And I was like, I'm really sorry. I know this is weird. So yeah, it's heavy sometimes. This particular set, especially about sort of my journey with my gender, has been it. I can only do it a couple. I can't do it often.
Too draining.
Yeah, it's very draining. It's a draining set. But I am getting better. I talked about some of it last night in open mic, but I think I took, maybe 3 weeks off of even talking about it on stage. And it showed, or it felt like it did last night coming out. So,
well, we've had discussions about it, and I'm sorry if I'm like a ignorant person, and I'm peppering you with questions, and you're going through your own stuff, because was it you that said to me recently? Or no, I was hanging out with Chelsea last week, and she went to me, "You're really aware that you're a white guy, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, I'm really aware of it because I grew up with just white people, and with gender roles was male and female. I think I mentioned this on stage. Like, I had an aunt who had a best friend called Sue.
Oh, yeah.
She lived with. It's like, oh, Sue, not Auntie X is coming up with her best friend Sue. No, and my grandparents kind of fell for that for like a long time. And eventually she did come out to them, and they were okay. Because my grandparents, I could see, went on a journey as well. When I was younger, I heard them say some negative things. And then now they're older, and I think they're pretty comfortable with that as well. So everyone kind of grows, right? You can even grow from like 60 to 90, which I think is where their growth happens. So I apologise if I pepper you with questions, because I'm trying to, for me, it's very different as well. As I said, growing up in a world with binary genders, and there was some Indians and Pakistanis with me in my school, but mostly predominantly white. So for me now, like, my wife is a person of colour, I have friends of person of colour of all genders and spectrums, but I'm still trying to figure out, make sure I use the right pronoun, and how do I use that. So I apologise if I'm annoying.
Thanks for practicing and doing it, because I think that's really the most, for me, I can only speak for myself, but just having people ask, like, asking feels really good. And then even it's hard, it's because it's new, and it's such a part of our language that it's not an easy thing to do with where we're at right now in speaking. So yeah, it's not, I feel like I'm having a lot more of experience of people being upset with themselves when they mess up. And then I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, you were really nice with me when I've gotten it wrong a couple of times, and then I'm like, oh. And
my brother is both of them are having a really hard time, but they're like, I'm like, when they freak out, it's like only on their end. Because they'll be like, this is really hard, I'm trying. And I'm like, I haven't even said anything. Like, just, it's fine. It's okay. I know it's hard. But I can see them struggling internally and then getting really mad. But yeah, I'm sitting over here in silence. I'm not freaking out at all. This is all you.
But that's amazing that they're so obviously sound supportive. And how are your family with it?
Yeah, I think my dad doesn't really, I haven't talked to him really about it. My mom is, yeah, she's understanding. They're trying.
That's good.
Yeah.
And
they're amazing. So
if you are comfortable, for people who are listening like me who don't understand it, or for people who are listening thinking they're maybe going on a similar journey, what does that, and again, if you're comfortable talking about it, what does that mean, like you're on your gender identity journey?
Yeah, I started, there's a term like gender questioning, sort of like if this comes up for you, which also felt really good for me to know that there was even this term that's like gender questioning, because that's kind of where it started. It was like, oh, okay, what is this? Like, where do I lie on this spectrum? And then really going into questioning like social constructs and binary thinking, really, with everything, which this whole journey in itself of non-binary thinking, not just with gender, but with like so many other things.
Hanoi in Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, has been wild. But yeah, so it started out gender questioning, and then as there's a lot of like, if I don't know something, really anything knowledge-wise, I dive into research. So I read a lot, and I'm doing a lot of Google search. I listen to podcasts. I just try to find all this information out to help me understand whatever it is that I'm thinking. And I found a lot of this research to try to help me understand what I'm feeling. And a part of that has like a lot of activities involved and projects, and really cool things that you can do to sort of like assist and like figuring out what feels good to you. So I'm doing a lot of that now. It's just like I'm reading these really wonderful books. One is one I talk a lot about, has really inspired the set that I'm planning on doing on the 16th, is this book called Life Isn't Binary. And which is really cool because I messaged the author or one of the authors and had told them this and was like, I basically was like, thank you for writing this. This has helped me so much. And like, I think there was a portion of this book. They also wrote another book I'm reading called How to Understand Your Gender, which is another one. So both of them have these little projects in to inspire sort of like, or just provide knowledge of non-binary thinking. And so I wrote them, told them about this. I said, I'm gonna have this recorded, and would you like to see it? Because I talk a lot about your book. And they wrote me back. Yeah, and they said, this sounds really exciting. It's such a non-binary answer. I was like, thanks. I'm glad this book has been, an assistance for you and a little friend. But yeah, it's been really cool. So these really have inspired a lot in the writing that I'm doing, based a lot on their writing and a lot of the new information that I'm gaining.
Awesome.
Yeah. Whew, I feel like that was forever.
Yeah, no, that's good. And is this a stupid question? Because you say you're on a journey. So does that have an end point? Does that have a destination? I guess. I mean, not an end point. Does that have a destination?
I don't think so, because I essentially I think everything has. I'm like on a very fluid. Like everything is fluid. And I am on this journey where like what I'm feeling right now in this present moment is where I'm at that could possibly change at any point as I'm learning, which it is. I mean, like I started on this gender journey and thinking about pronouns and what feels good for me. At first I was like, I think I'm still comfortable with she, and like that's okay. And I was really scared of like losing this feminine identity that I like really love about myself. And I have these traits that I was scared that if I let go of she, that then that automatically means I lose that experience that I had. But I had a lot of conversations with a lot of my other trans friends, and learning more what feels good, realizing that like that doesn't mean that if I drop this, or maybe sometimes hearing other people say she, that felt good, depending on the person who said it. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So at one point it was like started there, and now it actually feels more comfortable hearing they, them than either he, him, or she, her. But that didn't start in that direction either. And I think that this could continue to change over time in any way, shape, or form. For not just gender, like for anything. Yeah.
So for anyone listening who is maybe on a similar journey at any stage, either at the beginning or wherever, what would you say to them? What's your experience that you could share some wisdom?
I can only speak for myself, and I think that a lot, like what I talk a lot about in my stand-up is really just like social constructs and sort of breaking them down and just seeing, what feels good for someone. And then a lot of people, saying that something is wrong, or that there is a right or wrong, or that that's just like not right or inappropriate. But if it feels good for that person, if other parties are involved and there's consent involved, then it's fine.
And what would you, so you mentioned that book, do you want to say that book again? What would be a couple of standout podcasts or books that you would recommend to anyone to read to get?
Yes. Life Isn't Binary is one, which I think is Alex Ian Taffy, I hope I said that right, and Meg John Barker. And they also wrote another book called How to Understand Your Gender. So they write these books together. So
we'll put links to these books in the notes of the podcast. So if you are interested, go into the show notes and you'll be able to find these books.
Yeah, no, they're really, really wonderful and super helpful. And I also like that they're written from it's just encouraging, like, here's something that might help you if these are things you're thinking about. And nothing is like, this is the exact opposite, like everything that you should be feeling at this moment in time. It's just like, we don't know. And here are some other shared experiences of other people who go through this too, or who have this experience. So yeah, I like that in general. I'm definitely on I will never know how anyone else feels, but.
Well, I think no matter what it is, right, when you find someone that is having a shared experience, or they've had a shared experience in the past, and you find out, oh, you felt the same way, it's so comforting, right? Because, I mean, we're all, like you've said, you can only speak for yourself, you can only think for yourself. So as soon as you meet someone, you're like, oh, you thought the same way, I felt the same way as well. It just feels like a weight off your shoulders, right? Even if it's a small thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the essence of AA. They're like, it's alcoholics helping alcoholics.
Right. Okay.
So you're like, oh, you also drink too much?
Well, so I was going to ask that just because obviously, as we said, it is stuff you bring up in your stand-up. How long have you been sober now?
I am approaching 10 months. I'm a baby.
Wow, no, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
And how's that going? How's that journey?
That has been... I'm tired. I'm tired faster. No, it's been good. It's been, I guess I didn't realize how much it helped, or how much, I shouldn't say helped, how much I used it for energy. And flirting is, that's definitely been awkward now. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how much alcohol helped me talk to people I go on dates with.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking with Chelsea over the weekend about how me and my wife met, and like our first night we had drinks together, and that definitely contributed. So it's scary to think that if we hadn't been drinking together, we might not be together. I'm sure we would be together, but it might have taken a bit longer because it's really awkward to do it. It generally takes that at least a couple of drinks to...
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely for me, I think I used, in what I'm learning now, like what I used it for, I think the most was really just to like shut my brain off, because I think it moves really fast. Physically, I move very slow in most things in my life, but in here it's like constant. And I think that I used alcohol to not think about anything except being where I was at the moment in time. So then when I'm now not drinking and then trying to flirt, I'm like constantly thinking about it. And I'm like, oh, do you help cool. I'm like, yeah, we should meet for coffee. Also, people find that weird too. I'm like, they're like, oh, then you don't drink. And then that goes into I really don't care. I'm okay with being around alcohol and stuff. But yeah, it always brings up something. Oh, you don't drink, or you've never drank before? Yeah, so I think I actually felt like when I stopped drinking is when I delved into comedy or stand-up comedy in a more like serious manner. I started taking it more seriously and spending a lot of my time writing and learning more writing styles. And yeah, just being on stage like a lot more. Also doing stand-up not drunk, or like I wasn't drunk most of the time, but just not drinking, which is something to even celebrate that I keep forgetting, because I'm like, you're doing stand-up sober all the time.
Yeah, no, well done, yeah. I mean, so it must be so tough. It's interesting you say so you stopped drinking when you started doing stand-up?
No. So when I gave up alcohol, I concentrated a lot more on stand-up than I was previously when I had been drinking, because a lot of my time was spent like just getting really drunk.
Right.
And like, sometimes I would go to shows and just be like extremely hungover. I would drink again so I could get through a set or what have you. But yeah, I don't do that now.
No, because I take my hat off to you when you're on stage and you're talking about it. Because when you're doing comedy, you're surrounded by alcohol, and like you get free drinks, and if you don't get free drinks, there's just alcohol. We're performing in bars, so I think that's amazing. So how do you handle that? Because that must be. I take my hat off to you, like I said, because it must be so difficult to be in AA, but there's just surrounded in a sea of alcohol and drunk people.
Yeah, I feel like for here, the stand-up comedy nights are like run pretty smoothly. So it's just doing that. I think I leave a lot earlier is what it is. So like once it gets to a stage of, people repeating themselves or like telling me the same thing over again, that's when I'm like, all right, it's time to go to bed. Like, good night. But yeah, it's okay. I feel like this time, I mean, I was saying earlier, I've been in and out of AA since I was 23. I knew for a long period of time that at one point I just need to accept that I can't drink anymore. I can't, because there had been times that I had entered and then I was like, all right, well, there are nights where I can drink 3 beers and go home and it's still okay. And thinking that I can continue doing that is just not the case. Like I knew I had to accept that it just couldn't be a part of my life anymore. Mm-hmm. This time is the longest I've ever been sober, and it does feel like it's just not an option at all. So there have definitely been a few times where I've wanted to drink. In my AA meetings, I actually had asked people, I was like, can you get can you become a cocky sober person? And I think that's actually been happening to me sometimes where I'm like, oh, I got this. And then something will hit me later being like, no, you don't. Like, you need to go to a meeting again. So, yeah, just being cognizant and stuff is good.
And are there meetings, plenty of meetings in Saigon? It's like easy to access support here?
So I go to a trans AA one on Zoom that's based out of New York. Which is
completely forgot about Zoom. I forgot that we live in a digital age. I'm just thinking of like going and sitting in a church hall with some cold tea and a...
Yeah, but I actually at a show that I did a couple weeks ago, someone came up to me after and was like, I wasn't sure how to approach you, but I'm also in AA. And that was really cool.
That is cool, yeah, because people can relate to it and be like, I want to...
Yeah, and they gave me their information and said, we do this, we have a group here. And that was cool because it was also a person that seems to be close to my age, which is a whole other struggle with AA. But yeah, and that's like part of the reason that it's exciting for me as an art form and therapy. It's like to talk about these things out loud, and I can connect with people. It was funny. They're like, I wasn't sure how to approach you. And I'm like, that's why I do this. Like, come to me. Let's chat.
Well, look, thank you so much for sharing everything you've shared. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure the people listening will appreciate it as well. For anyone listening, like me and Kelso have been talking since I met you, really. And everything we've discussed has been consensual. And there's nothing we've talked about that Kelso hasn't agreed to talk about. So, but I do really appreciate you being candid and honest with that, because I find it really interesting, and I'm sure the people that are listening are as well.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for having me.
Well, so let's move on to the final part of the show. So I finish every episode with the same questions. Now every season the questions change, but this is actually the same questions as season 4, because that was just a short 5-episode season. But because the podcast is now a Vietnam podcast, these questions have slightly changed. Okay, so the first question is a little bit Saigon-centric, but then we're going to expand it to Vietnam. So there's over 7 million bikes in Saigon, which actually is not true. So for anyone who's been listening since the beginning, the name of the podcast is 7 million bikes, because when I started in May 2019, there was like 7,300,000 bikes or something like that. And just randomly came to me, 7 million bikes, that's a good name. But they were adding like 50,000 more bikes a month or something crazy like that. And I've had, since the beginning of the podcast and the beginning of 7 million bikes, I've had people ask me, what are you going to do when there's more than 8 million? And I'm like, well, the name's going to stay the same. It's not going to change every time it goes up. But recently I read an article and it is now over 8 million bikes in Saigon, and there's only like 10 million people here.
Yeah, geez.
This is registered bikes. Yeah.
See a baby riding a bike.
Yeah, no, which wouldn't really surprise you in Saigon, would it? You'd be like,
No.
Yeah, totally normal. Totally. Yeah. Last night on the way home, saw someone driving an SUV down the Hanoi highway with a young child, 5 years old, standing out the sunroof, like in a movie.
Yeah, they love it.
I was like, my wife and I were like, what are you doing?
Doesn't matter.
Insane, right? Insane.
They're also just like lifting them up with their ankles.
So the question is, with over 8 million bikes in Saigon now, and as we know, traffic laws are more of a guideline here often. What's an unwritten road rule that you couldn't live without?
So I like that you can carry anything that you want on your bike. So, like, if you have to move, if, for example, I purchased a new bed, I can put a bed on a motorbike and no one cares.
So this is funny you brought this up, because the last time I was in the location that we're in, because I'm not going to tell people where we are, did a podcast the last season, and the person I was interviewing said the name of like where I lived, and I had to cut. I was like, no, I don't tell people my address on the podcast. Yeah. But where we are right now, on my way home, I bought like a big stool, because there was a sale at the furniture store, and it's like this really nice big stool, and so I strapped it to they strapped it to the back of my bike with like sellotape. It was terrible, such a horrible job. And I had my guitar as well, so I had my guitar over the front and the stool over the back, and I only live like 10 minutes from here, but it was a nightmare coming back. And as I got back to my apartment, I had to go over speed bumps, and it kind of fell off the back a bit, but it was still strapped. Now, my wife listens to my podcast, so when you listen to this, Adri, what happened was it fell off the back and the bit underneath got ripped because it was like hit the back of the bike and like ripped through the material. But it's the bit that like faces the floor so you can't see it. But there's a big hole in it. But I never showed my wife. So Adrian, when you listen to this, go and get that stool that we bought, turn it upside down, and you'll see a big hole. That happened when I brought it home on the back of my bike. But you never notice. You don't. It's cosmetic. You know what I mean. So it doesn't influence any way, shape, or form.
You went to Marshall's.
Marshalls, I still love that store when I lived in America.
You know, I also like the. Have you ever seen the motorbikes do the balloons? Like that carry balloons, like just kids' balloons, like party balloons.
Oh yeah.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Mario Kart, the Versus?
Not really. I wasn't a big video game.
No.
Yeah, kid.
Yeah, for anyone listening who plays Mario Kart and the Versus one, it's when you have the 3 balloons and you battle each other out, but that's what it looks like. Just Mario Kart's riding around.
The other one is the goldfish. Have you seen that? They've got the fish all over the bike. The fish in the bags.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's another one as well,
it's
right?
A carnival game. Yeah.
Right. Now, you've been here for nearly 2 years, year and a half, you said? Do you speak Vietnamese?
I can get around. Yeah.
That means no.
Yeah. I've taken lessons, but I can't. Yeah. I can. If you drop me off in the middle of a place, I can figure it out.
That's impressive, because I've been here 4 years and I can barely say anything. So my question is, what's your most useful Vietnamese phrase?
Xin loi.
Right, okay. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, means...
sorry and excuse me. Sort of like the same thing. Yeah, the other day I had so anytime I have a really strong reaction to anything, like fear, excitement, sadness, my first thing to do is to gag. Like, it's really weird. Yeah, I don't know. So like anxiety, anything, I'm like, huh! So I had this, I called a Grab driver to come get me. I was having a little bit of anxiety attack. So he's waiting for me to get on, and I was like, and I was just like, once I gave him a finger, I said, Sin Loi, and then I just threw up. And then he was like, okay, so I'm turning around like, Sin Loi, and I'm just going. But he waited for me, and he was super nice. Then we got on, and also Con Sao, just like, no worries.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so right before we took off, he's like double checked. He was like, Con Sao? I was like, Con Sao.
My most useful one is Kom Hiu.
Ooh.
Which means I don't understand.
Yeah.
Which, when I learned that, I was like, life-changing.
Yeah.
Because I can just tell people, I'm like, I don't understand, which I feel bad about. Right, what's your favourite sunset spot in Vietnam?
Oh, in Hanoi. Yeah, on our lake in Tejo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I've seen that. Yeah, it's beautiful. Stunning up there.
Yeah.
Now, would you rather live in Vietnam now, with all the mod cons and everything we enjoy, international food, or 20 years ago when it was obviously a bit sleepier, a bit more rustic, quieter? What would you rather, now or 20 years ago?
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
I just, yeah. I think I talked a lot today about just like being present. So the past is cool to look at, reflect on, be aware of, but yeah,
Nice.
moving on.
I like that answer. And final question, what's missing from Vietnam for you?
Live music of indie obscure bands that I used to go to see all the time.
That's interesting, because that's one of the projects I'm going to work on this year, is putting on more live music, and I love indie music, so
yeah, it's like,
watch this space.
My favorite hobby, yeah, and I really miss it. It was something I did probably 2 to 3 times a week in DC.
Yeah, I miss live music as well. It's a big thing for me. Well, thank you very much. Well, we're finished. Before we go, though, can you please tell people, what are you working on right now? What's next for you? Where can they get in touch with you? Tell the world.
Yes. Thank you. So the next thing... the next really exciting thing for me is my first time doing a 40-minute set, the headliner show. So that's really exciting.
Where is it? When is it? What's
Prohibition Bar, doors at 8:30.
7:30.
Show at 8:30. Doors at 7:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting better at my calendar. So yeah, that's really exciting.
It's on the 16th of January.
January 16th. Yep. January 16th, Prohibition Bar, show at 8:30. That's
7:30. Don't come at 8:30. Be there at 7:30.
Yes. Yeah. That, exactly. And the other thing is so another comedian that moved down here, Eric, who's one of my comedy partners, Eric Garcia. He's hilarious. Him and I teach a stand-up 101 course. We're called Class Clowns, and we did it in Hanoi. And now that he's here, we're going to try to start it up in Saigon.
Awesome. Yeah, we're missing that. We don't have that here at all.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's gonna be something really cool. So yeah, watch this space. We'll set out some our Facebook page and events. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's me, Kelso.
That's good you got that one. No one else has that.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah, it's me, Kelso.
And we'll put that in the show notes so people can click on it and connect with you on the gram.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. I feel like I talked a lot.
Well, that's the point of it. If you didn't, this would be a very short and very pointless podcast. So that's all right. So I appreciate it. So thank you very much. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much for listening. We're going to aim to do at least 10 episodes in season 5. We'll do one a week, and we're going to start promoting more about the shows because we're going to be doing more and more 7 Million Bike shows. So if you are listening from across the world, sorry you can't come to one, but please go on the Facebook page. We're starting to post more videos on there so you can see little clips. If you're in Saigon, then please come out to a show. You can meet Kelso, meet myself, meet some of the other guests that have been on the show, and make new friends. It's always a good laugh. It's really good fun. And please get in touch. Send us a message on Facebook. You can leave a review as well for the podcast or a show. Really appreciate that. I always love when we hear from people. It's one of the best things when I wake up in the morning and I have a message from someone I've never met before from somewhere around the world. I've had messages from people in America saying, I used to live in Vietnam and I really miss it. I love listening to your podcast. Or I've had one guy say, I'm in America, but I'm coming back to Vietnam because I met the love of my life and I'm so excited, and this podcast remind me about Vietnam. So if anyone wants to send a message like that, please do, because it is probably one of my favourite things to hear that. So to finish, Kelso, thank you so much. That's been really amazing, really interesting, and I'm excited to see you do lots more stand-up and hear your
my
therapy.
life. My life out loud.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Một nhịp lộn, một nhịp giữa, đứng khúc lộn, bắt sao đây? Bắt sao đây?
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease. And I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you are listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.